Do you need people or do you need leverage? Because people create leverage, but we can create leverage with technology now. Do you want to build a team because you want to be surrounded by people, or do you want to get the result? I know a business owner, he's been stuck at $3 million for 5 years. No AI at all. He was able to reduce his team and then double his profits. Was able to create a financial forecast that would have cost, I would have had to pull in a consultant and they would have charged me $50,000 just to put that together. What can AI replace right now? And what can AI replace in the next 6 months? 15% of the tasks were tasks would immediately go away. Another 30% that would be completely AI automated that would just need review. The operations conversation is totally missed. Most people who are putting out information about AI are content creators, just because there's not enough people who are both creating content and working on operations simultaneously.
So we talk a lot about AI and its application for business, Mike. And by the end of this episode, I want the people watching, listening, taking notes to have at least 2 to 3, dare I say even 4 applications of how AI could increase their business, increase their revenue, or save them hours and hours upon time. Because we've broken down skills, we've broken down agents, we've broken down all the things AI can do. But I'd love to make it practical as an application for anyone listening in terms of how you've seen what you're working on, the clients you've worked with, or even in your own life, AI drastically change how you approach work or how you approach business.
Yeah, I'm excited to do it. You sent me a text yesterday and said, this is what we want to talk about. What are the use cases? I'm going, man, there's so many, and just calibrating to what's going to make sense to the people listening. I want to give a broad spectrum, because some people are interested in marketing, some people are interested in operations, some are interested in finance, and I can give examples of all of these. So I'm excited to hop in and discuss this and get into the weeds bit.
I know I pulled up a couple. You have a few. And as always, right? I'll be the little boat on the surface, and we got Jacques Cousteau over here, which that might be it. You might be AI Jacques Cousteau. I'm just saying, who will always take it a few layers deeper. But did you want to go first? Did you want me to go first? Maybe start surface level, go deeper, or vice versa?
Let's start surface. Yeah. Why don't you go first, and then I'll give some examples. Let's give a little teaser though. I said operations, finance, whatever. Some of the things I'm going to talk about is how to assess the marketing of an existing business and how we can improve it. Nice. Another one is working on financials. Financial projections in order to get investors to invest in a company, a startup that I'm part of. And I can also talk about, we'll do something along the lines of like how I'm using it for social media.
Nice. I'm excited for that. I broke down 4 use cases that were relevant to me. One was a lot of folks get excited when I tell them about my daily briefs, pretty much helping prioritize, build out my calendar and my days. Also, when it comes to podcasting, for any of the content creators out there, this is applicable to not just guest vetting, but for inbound consultant leads, partnership requests, application resumes. So many use cases, but I have an AI-powered vetting engine and also speed to lead. A lot of businesses I speak to, and also one of the issues a lot of businesses deal with is their speed to lead. And then again, relative to service businesses is customer health and churn prediction, some things that are going to be useful. So I brought some numbers along with it to help really quantify the value of some of these things. And you can feel free to ask follow-up questions, but I'll jump in with the daily AI brief. And what this is it's through my Claude Cowork. It will scrub my emails, my Notion. It will scrub my messages, my Google Calendar every day. And I also do a debrief habit of any open loops that I have, wins for the day, what I said I was going to do, what I actually did. So each night I'll do a debrief with a voice note. And then every morning it will review my debrief and then give me a brief for the upcoming day. Now, most CEOs start their days reactive, right? Like, okay, what emails came in overnight? What do I need to do? This helps solve that for me. And some of the numbers I wanted to come in here with was the average knowledge worker spends 28% of the work week. That's like 11 to 13 hours on email. That's from McKinsey.
Mhm.
Only 12% of emails contain an actual action item, meaning that you're sifting through 88% of noise. So one of the things my daily brief does is says, these are the priority emails you need to answer to. Everything else, just skip it for now, which is huge because we talked about how context switching is such a deterrent to your productivity when you're checking your
Yeah.
emails. So now I just get the gusto right on top. And it takes 23 minutes and 15 seconds to refocus after context switching, right? That's some of the downfalls of checking your emails. So when I wake up, I'll have that full brief. It will tell me my wins from the previous day. Let me open up my brief so I could just give you more of a detailed breakdown of what actually is happening for me. So daily operations brief, yesterday's wins. Then it shows my open loops, which close these before you go to sleep. So any open loops that I didn't accomplish from the day before. Top priorities and decision filters ordered. So the top priorities I need to address for the day. And it will even give me the time slots within the day and when to do it. And it says the day locked in. It will bring my schedule up because I operate through time blocking. And it'll give me a breakdown. And surprise, surprise, I'm in the block that says full stack podcast recording with Mike Bledsoe. And then email intel. And I also have it give me a daily growth fact. It knows what I'm doing in life and it knows what I'm trying to do. So every day will give me a fact that's relevant to what I'm doing. So this one was actually speed beats polish on first touch follow-up. And it's also talking about speed to lead for lead response research, showing that obviously the faster you get back to a potential lead, the higher the likelihood of closing is, which is something we could cover later on in the day. But I've found this very beneficial to me, Mike, for multiple reasons, but the main thing is just waking up. And when that automation runs and I just check my brief, it's like, oh, okay, here's what I can tackle today.
Yeah, I sometimes when I hear this kind of stuff, I'm like, okay, yeah, what's the big deal?
Yeah.
But then once you actually implement it, you go, oh, it's a big deal. Because I'm the type of person who will this year alone, there's been a couple times where I let my email go 20, 30 days behind. Like 10 days behind is normal. But the reality is for me personally, there's not that many important emails coming through. There's subscriptions, there's newsletters, and I love the newsletters that I subscribe to. I love to read them when I want to read them, which has become more and more rare. And that's because AI just gives me exactly what I need when I need it, information wise. And so having somebody else, try to figure out what's good for me is actually not that great. And I love the growth tip. It's tracking where you're at, what's going on with you, can give you growth tips. I've done things like loaded what's funny is I think we've talked about this before. I've loaded up I was going to load up my personality tests. Well, of these things I've taken over the last, almost 20 years. And instead of saying, you know what, why don't you just assess based on how I interact with you, what you think I score on all these things, and it got it right. But you can feed it information about you, and you can give it context, and then it gives you appropriate context on what you're working on and growth tips and stuff like that. But having a single, there's a term that's going around, which is the single source of truth, is really what, and truth is a funny word, but I'm not going to dissect that down philosophically right now. But the idea that there's a single source of truth
Previous episode.
Yeah. Where I can go and I can go, oh, I can see everything in my business, everything that's relevant to me in this moment. And that's the important word, is what's relevant for me right now. And I think that in up until doing things like the daily brief, what you have, I have a weekly brief. I've had to hold so many things in my mind. I've got Gmail here. I got my calendar over here. I've got a Slack over here. I've got ClickUp over here. I've got all, project management. I have several different clients I'm working with at any moment. So not only am I tracking projects within a business, I'm tracking other businesses and projects inside of those businesses. And I wake up in the morning and my mind is sometimes thinking about one or two businesses before I even get out of bed. And the journal is really handy there. But that's such an emotionally driven place to come from. Like, oh, I wake up, this is what feels important. And then I go, oh, I get my daily briefing, like what you have. And it calibrates my attention. It calibrates where I need to be. And I don't only need to check one single source of truth. And the cool thing is you only have to set that up one time. And now you have it. And so it's when you have something like that, it really, that's such a focus hack.
And I've built upon it too. And even today, one of the because it's scarred my Notion, and I keep so much in my Notion for organizing my life and my projects, is today I was like, why don't I have it put the tasks in my Notion for me? Like, what am I doing? Like,
right.
And that's that's going to be an update in the daily prompt of, okay, now whatever the tasks that are required, put it into my Notion. So when I check those tasks off, it will automatically keep track of those loops being closed.
Yeah. We're both at this stage of the game where there are some people I follow that have gone beyond where we are. But there's a stage of the game where you have this unified AI system where I have one window I look at and it's got everything. I don't have to log into a different account for this and another account for this and another account for this or that. If I set it up properly, I have one place to log in. I have one place to hang out, and I've got one screen, and I've got one agent to talk to in order to make everything happen. And it's like, so I think the next, like one of the things that's on my menu to build, which I may get into it a little bit today, is I built one version of it already, which is chief of staff.
Nice.
I think a lot of people think they want like a CEO for their business or a COO for their business. And I played around with building these things out. But what we really want is the chief of staff. We want to go in, we want to get the morning brief, right? So say you're a big dog, and you've got a chief of staff who gets paid $250K a year. What happens with that chief of staff? Or the president? Say you're the president of the United States. You get briefed in the morning. And in fact, a lot of times the chief of staff is, they're holding more information than the person who's in charge and can filter things in and out. So you got to make sure you program it properly.
They give you the meat and keep the bones.
Yeah. So, you get your briefing and then you tell them what you want to happen and then they go and delegate. And so I see where this is going is one mission control. You log in, you have one mission control, and you can operate your entire business from one dashboard. And then when you're on the go, you can basically have a text messaging thread. I mean, a lot of people use Telegram. Some people use Discord. You can use iMessage and have a chat going with your chief of staff about, it can report and say, hey, we completed this project. I can tell you enough about it verbally or over text. You may not need to see a lot. We just need a quick decision on this. You go, cool, do this. Boom. And it fires off and it goes. And so I think that's what people really want. And like your morning brief is literally the first step towards having that chief of staff. And everyone gets to have one, but you're going to build your chief of staff in pieces. You're not going to build it all at once. It's not going to be like, oh, I'm going to hire this chief of staff. You're going to build all the pieces that the chief of staff has to know how to do. And then at some point, you're going to pull your hands out of the work. And then you're just going to be able to dictate how you want things to be.
Yeah. Like I'll check my daily brief before I'll check email, before I check Slack, before I check Notion. Like this is my starting point. And then and the beauty about it is they're not, I always say this, they're tracks, not bars, right? You're not locked into your brief. I can even adjust and, call an audible on my brief as needed. So, what's something that came to you for a use case?
One thing that let's see. I'll do the one that I think is going to apply to most people, and then we're going to get deeper into stuff gets a little more technical. So if you're waiting for more technical stuff, it's coming.
Mm-hmm.
But so one of my clients, we rebuilt his homepage and landing pages and all this, and I have what's called there's these, when it comes to marketing, I have these two different skills that I've developed. One of them is called the Brand Architect, and you can access these inside of the school community. One is the Brand Architect, and the other one is the CMO, the Chief Marketing Officer. And so the Brand Architect is all about the brand. It's about the language. It's about creating an onlyness statement. Like, what makes you different from other brands? What makes your offer special? How do we communicate that in a way that lands, right? And then also sets up the brand visuals. How should the website look? How should you be showing up on social media? What's the banner on your Facebook and your YouTube? What should it look like? So it covers all that. And then I also have the CMO skill, which is the chief marketing. This is the person in a business that is in charge of marketing, and they have a very broad understanding of marketing. And so I use that for strategy. So a lot of times what I'll do first is I'll just make sure that we have some type of brand cohesion. So for one client, it's got a YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, a school community, all this stuff. And I noticed what I was feeling is there's a little bit of discontinuity. Like if I go from one platform to another, it doesn't quite feel the same. So instead of just picking one platform and building everything around that and trying to make it look like that one platform, I say, what's the best brand? What are we extracting from all this based on the numbers? Which channel's doing the best? And then how do we build around that? And then pulling in the CMO and saying, oh, okay. So the CMO comes in and says, well, what's the best strategy? Now the brand guide or the brand architect gave what should, like, big picture messaging, but didn't get into the details of what the landing should be on the landing page. You could take it as far as creating a landing page for you, but you bring the CMO in and go, what's our strategy here? So for an existing business that's already got lead flow and all that kind of stuff, we just say, hey, these are the numbers, this is what's working. You already have access to the funnels and the channels and the product and the Stripe account. You know how everything's working. What's the strategy? Where's our attention best put in order to grow this business?
Nice.
And then it comes back and says, we actually need to rewrite this landing page. We need to rewrite the home page. The home page needs to have links to these three things, not one thing. Each landing page needs to do this. And I go, oh, this is so very clear. And so then between the CMO and the brand architect, I'm able to spin up, just draft up HTML, web design, and I can spin that up, and then I send it over to my client. This is all stuff I used to never do. In my consulting practice, I was giving advice and recommending copywriters. I was recommending people who specialize in brand. I was outsourcing so many different things. But now I go, oh yeah, I'll just do it because for me, it's fun. And it's going to save my client a lot of money. And because I've spent time developing these skills that work incredibly well, like we can knock it out in a fraction of by the time you find somebody that can do this for you, just do it yourself.
Yeah.
So, developing marketing skills, brand skills, CMO skills, and then using that to analyze everything that you have currently going on. That's a huge one. And then on top of that, I'm also developing a new brand right now. And I developed a new brand talking to the brand architect. And then I brought that conversation to the CMO. And I said, hey, what did we miss? We have our branding, but we don't have our strategy. What's our strategy here? Oh, okay. Based on the market research, based on this and that, this is our way in. For instance, the brand that I'm creating right now is in the real estate investing space. And I was looking at, initially my thought was that we're just talking to creative deal makers, people who identify as creative deal makers in real estate investing. And I said, no, like the blue ocean, there's no competition for what you're building. There is if someone's buying and leasing. There's some things that are similar, but not what we're doing is incredibly unique. Mm-hmm. But to the end consumer, it might be hard to tell the difference for people who are buying and leasing homes, or for people who are doing subject to and then wrapping and doing owner finance and selling homes that way. That is a blue ocean. There's not much competition there at all, and especially for what we're doing. So basically, we came to the decision of, to build a company and sell it for the price we want to sell it for, we should focus. There's plenty of people. We only need 500 clients. Per the research, there's 15,000 people actively doing this. So you only need 500 in order to sell the business in 3 years at the price you want to sell it at. And I go, oh. So, I'm able to reverse engineer that because I also have a CFO skill, which we'll get into. That'll be the next one. I'll get into. So I just talked about like brand and marketing and marketing strategy. That's how I'm using it. Was that clear?
Yeah, I mean, because a lot of companies, I think anyone listening who's running an operation, they've reached a ceiling in their revenue, or they just can't break a certain threshold. Oftentimes, they hire a consulting company, they'll hire a marketer to rework their brand. But instead of spending and deploying all that capital, this is the skill set that can look at the entire thing. What I wrote down was finding the blue ocean, right? Like, where is your unique approach going to separate you from the competition? Increase positioning, position yourself. It's one thing to be, you could be the fisherman who's laying out the fish, or you could just be at the river where all the salmon are swimming and you just are catching it with a net. And then lastly, it's cleaning up your messaging, because you might have the ideal client look at you, but they might read what you're doing. They come on your landing page, and like you mentioned, go to the different areas. It feels different. It doesn't resonate. I'm going through building a StoryBrand. You might be familiar with the book.
Yep, I'm very familiar.
And that's where it's like, okay, are you making are you making the audience the hero of your story, or are you talking about yourself and they don't care what you do because you haven't built that connection yet?
That book contributed to me building that CMO skill.
Boom. There you go.
So I read that book a decade ago. It made a huge difference in my life, in my business. And it was one of the books that I chose to include as a reference. So when I'm basically my CMO agent is aware of that information as it's doing things, as well as a bunch of other things.
Which is huge, because we've said how important that knowledge is. So that's the one amazing thing with AI. Its ability to take the knowledge in all these areas and apply it to your business, which has completely democratized the availability of this work. Instead of hiring a whole marketing agency, instead of hiring all the marketing consultants, you now have that within your organization. And for a lot of people, one thing I'll ask, I mean, this seems beneficial to both the person who's in the ideation phase of a business, and that person who could be 4 or 5 years in their business and just coming to a lag, right? Like
Yep.
both use cases apply.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah. It works equally as well either way. I mean, if you already have an existing business, it even takes way less time to build something from scratch. I find that to basically build the brand, it's getting faster every time. So I built a brand. I had already done a lot of market research. I'd done like market research interviews and stuff like that. So if I take all that out and I go, okay, I have a dozen market research calls
Mm-hmm.
and I load those in, and then I have some conversations between me and my business partner about what it is we're creating. I load those transcripts in, and then we start working out the brand from there. It can take a couple days.
Yeah.
To go from 2 days to, it's like a day to establish the brand and a day to establish the strategy. And that's a strategy. And it's not a strategy about how to get started. It's a strategy for, I want to sell this company for 9 figures in 3 years. What's our approach today?
Let's go. And
Yeah.
build out the roadmap. And that's what I wrote down as well, was like the reverse engineering with the outcome in mind. Man, amazing. I remember how long it took me to do like a 34-page business plan and having to do the SWOT analysis and all the individual like
I
research
remember
for it.
doing all that.
Yeah. Like, oh man, those days are behind us, but it's good to know how it all works. So kind of,
I mean, I wouldn't have been able to create the skill had I not been in business as long as I have. And I know what a CMO should know. I know what a CFO should know. I know what a brand guy. I've done this stuff and suffered through enough of it to go, oh, I can. This is the type of outputs I'm looking for, so I can judge pretty well whether it's good or not. If you don't have any experience in this, your ability to discern whether it's good or not is going to be missing. And that's why you should join the school, because I've already done the discernment for you. So all the skills I put in there are super safe.
yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking too. Like the two approaches here is folks could be listening to this and think, okay, I need to build this for myself. But these use cases are also something that you can acquire from those who've already built it and who've done the grunt work of applying it in their business and willing to share and deploy that in your company as well.
Mm-hmm.
My second use case I wanted to jump into. Now, this is going to be, I use it specifically for podcast guest vetting. But the use case for this, it still works as well for applicant resumes, partnership requests, podcast guest pitches, of course, but inbound consulting leads, whatever this use case would apply to you. This is drastically decreasing the time it takes to evaluate said requests. So this is more of an evaluation automation that I've set up, and this is on a weekly schedule that I've set it up for. And the numbers I wanted to come in with when it comes specifically to podcast guest vetting and guest booking, hosts can spend 4 to 8 hours per episode on guest research and outreach. Guest booking can consume 100 to 200 hours per month when done in-house, which is an opportunity cost of $15,000 to $40,000 in executive rates. And then over 60% of guest pitches receive no reply, meaning that the inbox is full of low quality applicants and the host has to sift through all of that. So being as someone here, is you could probably see the trend from my first use case to my second use case. Time is extremely valuable to me. And I want to limit the amount of time that I'm actually in the business. So what this does for me is every week, it will scrub through my emails, the direct source in which I accept podcast guest pitches. I rarely do podcast reach outs at this point. I'll be honest, unless I see a guest I really want, I'll reach out to them. So it will scrub my emails every week. It will identify the podcast pitches. From that, it will then extract. It will pull the guest name, their LinkedIn, prior podcast appearances, social appearances, book credentials, the media kit if it has it. And then it will do research. It will automatically research the guest, recent media, content style, audience alignment with the Modern Man brand. And it will break it all down for me And then this is the best part. I have had a number of categories, and it will score the guest based off of these categories. For the guest evaluation framework, it's the charisma, the alignment with the brand message, the alignment with the audience, tactical value provided, public proof, right? Do they have any proof of videos, online presence, things like that, and a couple other parameters. And based on that score, it will categorize the guest in one of three categories, which is either automatic guest, a paid slot, or pass. And then even further, it will then go back into my email and it will draft the appropriate response and have it in my draft folder. So every week, I'll open up my draft folder. I'll look at every week I'll get the brief of the amount of guest pitches, the scores, how many were passed upon, how many are paid, how many are accepted. And then I go into my emails. I'll review it because I'm still at the point where I believe, for a lot of what I'm doing, there's still a little bit of a human touch to it. So I'm just validating the work that the AI has done, which is pretty, 80 to 90%, it's on point. And then I have any adjustments to it, and then I hit send. And that alone has saved me hours upon hours, because I would have guest bookings just pile up and I would have to sit down for an hour to 2 hours, just go through them. But now every week it reduces that to maybe 20 minutes where I'm just like, oh, yes, no,
Nice.
sorry, bye. And that's been huge, game changer. But again, you could apply this to any other vetting process as long as you build out the proper parameters for it.
Yeah, and what's cool is when you're working inside of something like Coworker Code, and maybe it makes a mistake, you can just say, hey, this is a mistake and this is why. Or you can just ask, why did this person come through? Or maybe not as many applicants came through and you felt like maybe it could have been a little bit better. Can you widen the net a little bit and then maybe discuss this? So it's not one of these set and forget type of things, which I think is really beneficial, because over time it can shift a bit, and because the world is also shifting. It's like, oh, this particular thing is not as important, but you can just have a conversation with it in real time, and it'll make the adjustments on the back end and improve.
One of the adjustments
agent
was it would draft the email, and it would just draft the email. And now I said, no, draft the email within the thread, because it would draft a fresh email completely separate from the inbound email. And I had to update. It's like, no, include it in the thread as a reply to the inbound email. So that was an adjustment. And then even letting it know, it's like, hey, you accepted this person, they're more of a paid slot. You passed on this person, they're move them up. And it's adjusted along the way. So to your point, there was some tweaking, and I'm sure there's still going to be more, but I rather tweak than just do the whole thing from start to finish.
Yeah, the tweaks just become less and less frequent. Like in the beginning, you tweak a lot, and then over time, you don't tweak so much.
Yeah, but saves countless hours. So for anyone who has a lot of betting in what they do, or maybe other content creators out there, that's a use case that I found extremely beneficial.
Yeah.
Hit me with it, Mike.
All right. Let's see. Let's get into tech build. Yeah, I'll get a little more technical.
Do it.
We'll keep the financial forecast last. The tech build summary. I have an entire business operations. So one of my clients, the entire business operations is built out in a project management software.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of going through manually and trying to see where AI could be implemented one thing at a time, which is really how I think most business owners are approaching it, is they're thinking of one thing they want to use AI for. And I'm like, if AI could just do this for me, and they're like hone in on it, which is fine. But what I was able to do is connect to that project management software with Claude Code and extract out every single thing that's happening inside the business. I can also connect into the email account of the business, so I can see all the messaging happening.
Mm-hmm.
I can see all the calls that are booked in the calendar. I can pull from the project management software, and I can ask it. I asked it, what can AI replace right now, and what can AI replace in the next 6 months out of everything that currently sits in the business right now. So without me needing to even think about can AI do this or not, I was able to have AI do the assessment. And it found that there was about 15% of the tasks that were happening inside of the project management software were tasks that if AI were implemented in there would immediately go away. Simple waste of time, right? And then it identified another 30% that if we could build things out that would be completely AI automated, that would just need review instead of a human actually doing it. It could actually do it for it and be just reviewed. And then there's another 30% that could be built out in the next 6 months. And again, I think we were talking about this on a previous show, which was, labor costs, salaries, hourly wages, all this is the most expensive part of a business's operation cost, whether you're paying someone else to do it or you're doing it yourself. Because I think, my time spent in the business is worth a certain amount of money. So I was able to just figure that out and go, oh, okay. So, and then we're able to go back and forth and ask, what is the simplest things we could automate first? What is the simplest things AI could do first? What's going to be the easiest to build? And then we can create this whole list of how we're going to build AI, make this business an AI business that was previously run by a project manager going through and then delegating out and this and that. AI becomes the project manager. AI becomes the one that does the work. And now you have more of like a project reviewer. So the person that was the project manager, they move into more of like a review position. And so, that's something I did yesterday that I found, very useful.
Yeah.
I showed the business owner and they go, oh my gosh, this is insane. And so, that's not like on the operations side. I think the operations conversation is totally missed.
Yeah.
And right now, and the primary reason operations and AI is not talked about much publicly is because most people who are putting out information about AI are content creators. And so everything they're doing is related to content or education, not operations. And so that's why you're just not seeing a lot of it talked about right now, is because there's not enough people who are both creating content and working on operations simultaneously.
Yeah. And I mean, that's so valuable because you can only go so fast as a company with the baggage that you're carrying. Right. So if you're in a speedboat, you can, if you reduce the friction with the water as much as possible and the aerodynamics are optimized, the only other way to gain speed is to lighten the load on the boat with the operations.
Yeah.
So when you get rid of those, I call them the atomic tasks, the repetitive time-sucking tasks that could be automated from a machine. And this assessment identifies those tasks. And I love that you said the easiest to build first, because it's a momentum builder, right? You knock that small domino, and we know how dominoes work. Like, you ever see the depiction of this like massive door-sized domino, and they have like 4 dominoes ahead of it, and you see this little tiny domino. You're like, there's no way that little domino could knock down that door. But the little domino gets the bigger one, and it exponentially increases the momentum. And that's what you're building there by taking that smallest task and then ramping up from there.
Yeah, I can build the smallest task that takes 5 minutes. I might spend a half hour creating the thing that solves for it. But by the time that task has been repeated 6 times, we're at a break even. But that task can be completed thousands of times. And then you keep solving more and more technical stuff, and you start with small wins.
Yeah. And to your point, a lot of business owners have, the shiny object syndrome where they're like, oh man, this is what I need. I need this chatbot or I need this AI tool, like, because it's fancy, it's shiny or something that was presented to them. And they're like, okay, this is what I need. But I've used the example is if you have a headache and you go to CVS and you buy all the medicine on the shelf, one of those pills might work, but you're probably better served going to the doctor first and getting diagnosed with what you actually need. You'll save a
Yeah.
lot more time and a lot more money by identifying the real problem instead of just buying the fancy label or what works best. So assessment is key. And I feel as though we're going to get more into operations here because, but the third use case I brought up was what I've seen with some businesses that I've worked with. Specifically, I've worked with gym businesses, and their main problems was converting leads, right? Whether it's a low amount of leads or a low conversion, the speed to lead autoresponder it's a popular AI tool that's presented as well. And the use case here is to increase conversions. So the numbers I wanted to come in with is the average business takes 47 hours to respond to a new lead. This is from Harvard Business Review that reviewed, and this is a study of over 2,200 companies. Only 7% of B2B companies respond within 5 minutes. Now, this is crazy. Responding within 1 minute is a 391% increase. It provides 391% more conversions versus 2 minutes. And then leads contacted within 5 minutes are 21 times more likely to qualify versus 30 minutes, and 78% of buyers purchase from the first responder. So this is for the home service companies, cleaning companies, roofing companies, HVAC companies. If you have a lead, chances are they're calling 2 or 3 others as well. So
Oh
speed
yeah.
here is really the the deciding factor for who secures their business. Is like, did you call back in time? And I wanted to put some ROI math because this isn't specific use to what I am doing for my business, but as I've worked with companies and some of the research I've seen says take a contractor doing 100 leads a month at $5,000 average ticket price. If they're closing 10% at 47-hour response, the average response number, and they get that down to 5 minutes, they're not doubling. They're actually tripling or quadrupling their close rate, which could equal $30,000 to $50,000 a month in pure recovered revenue without generating more leads. So that alone, the speed to lead, can drastically increase your revenue.
Yeah. I just went through this. I need some roof repairs on my house. And you know, the way I operate is I go online and I find the best ones I could find. I use AI to figure out who's the best. And then I fill out 4 or 5 different forms. And then, of course, someone's calling me, I'm ignoring it. And, cause I'm going to get all 4 of these. I batch my work, I don't think everyone works this way, but I do. I batch it. And then I check my text messages afterwards. People got back to me. I had 4 different people come give me bids on it. And, yeah, I've got a company that I'm probably going to move forward with. And the thing that sets them apart from the rest was their consistency in being able to message me back. They were able to, they sent me emails, they sent me text messages, they left me a voicemail. Afterwards, they stayed in contact with me afterwards. Because, I think most homeowners probably are going to get multiple bids on their home for anything they need to get done.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm text messaging this one sales guy. He had stopped by. We had a great time. We talked. I talked to some others, and like they were just so on top of being in contact that I'm asking them all the questions. Who's going to get my business? Some of this is going to be dictated on price and reputation of the company and all that kind of stuff. But the people who are really on top of communications with me, and I can't imagine it was all a person doing it. Most of this was automated.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, they're huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
And And so I do want to touch on, while AI is fantastic and huge, that human element is still really important. I was in Orlando a couple weeks ago, and we were hit by a severe thunderstorm. And I'm doing my meteorologist thing, keeping an eye on it. And I told my wife, I'm like, hey, we got severe thunderstorm warning. There's hail coming. I'm pulling the car in the garage. Pull the car in the garage. We get pelted with hail. And my brother-in-law, the homeowner, he said within like 10 minutes, 20 minutes after the storm, he was getting called by roofers. But he was at work. I'm in the house. All of a sudden the door rings. I open the door. Dude was a roofing company. He's like, hey, what's up, bro? Left my card on the doormat. We're doing free assessments. After the storm, we're going to do free roof assessments. Make sure you're good from the hail that came through. I said, bet.
Yeah.
Grabbed the card. My brother-in-law came home from work. Who do you think he called back? It was
Totally.
that dude. Because not only did the automation call after the storm, he looked it up. He's like, oh, yeah, this is the number that called me. And so not only did they have the automation, the dude was boots on the ground knocking on the door.
Totally.
So there's the example right there of, and for the business owners, the AI automation is not an excuse just to kind of put your hands up, but it's an accentuation to the work that you're doing.
Yeah.
So that was a good example. And I was impressed by the guy. And of course they're ripping and rolling. They're all over Florida. So
yeah, I mean, if you're selling software, you can get away without having that personal touch.
Yeah.
But if you're selling anything else, yeah, AI plus personal touch is the way to go for sure.
Yeah, I gave the guy a slow cap. I'm like, dude, you knocking on doors right after the storm, like this thing's still bearing down 10 miles down the road, but you're here right behind it, man. And I imagine they had a team in a bunch of neighborhoods. But the last use case I had, so the one I shared prior was speed to lead, and that's capturing the audience on the front end. The next and last use case I brought up was customer health and churn prediction. And this is holding on to them in the back end. So this is pretty much churn prevention. Numbers here is acquiring a new customer costs 5 to 7 times more than retaining one. A 5% improvement in retention can increase profitability by 25 to 90%, another Harvard Business Review study. And then reactive retention, which means after the cancel, it converts at about 15 to 20%. But proactive retention, intervening before they decide to cancel, converts at 60 to 80%. And then most churn is predictable, 30 to 90 days before cancellation.
Yep.
You probably know your average customer lifetime. So you can tell. I joke, I say, it's like when you're in a relationship, you know they're about to leave you. You do something nice. That's exactly what this is. So again, ROI math, just to make an example, is a $750,000 a year business losing 5% monthly churn is bleeding $37,500 a month in recurring revenue. Catch and save just 30% of that with proactive AI alerts will add up to $135,000 a year to the bottom line without spending an extra dollar on ads, marketing, or anything like that. So the build behind it, because I wanted to give the listeners and the viewers some tactical approaches on how this works, is you have usage signals. You mentioned software companies, login frequency, feature depth, trend direction. You can tell when someone's kind of dwindling down. Transactional would be payment failures, downgrades, 50% of downgrade churn within 50% of downgrades churn within 90 days. So if they go from a higher tier to a lower tier, you see them slipping literally through your fingertips. And then support signals are the ticket volume increasing. Is their sentiment shifting? Right? Are they calling in more? Your customer service has to deal with them more. And then email engagement, response delays. Again, the signals in a relationship where you're like, oh, hey, this person's acting different. Are they going to leave me? Plugging in, like you mentioned, your CRM and having that data scrubbed with an AI agent, they could pick up on the customer activity. And the last example I'll say to bring this home, I'm sure the audience, everyone's familiar with Atomic Habits and The Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg and James Clear. I love the example in the book when they talked about the father going to Target and flipping out at the manager for sending pregnancy coupons to his 16 or 17-year-old daughter, only for him to go home and realize that it was the habitual purchases. They didn't have her name. They didn't have anything. They just had like the number on the card. But the habitual purchases indicated that she was pregnant, and Target knew she was pregnant before their father knew. And he had to go back and be like, hey, actually, no, she is pregnant. And that's what AI can now do. Is not just sending marketing material, but actually giving you an alert of, hey, this person's about to leave you. Now's the time to send that offer. Now is the time to kind of butter them up a little bit to hold on to them to protect your bottom line.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we used to do this manually, but we do it with AI now. I had a client last year who, late last year, where I was using AI to analyze, what's the biggest opportunity in the business right now. And it wasn't sales, it wasn't marketing, which they're really good at. It was retention.
Mm-hmm.
It was, man, if we just increase retention by 2 or 3 months, then that would increase the revenue by 50%. I was like, oh shit. You can keep selling at the same rate. We've been trying to figure out how to sell more people, but we go, oh, we're able to analyze this and we're able to make some changes. And then all of a sudden we had, an increase and revenue went up and this and that. But AI is able to, things that used to take like spreadsheets and someone really thinking hard and looking at it and building out these formulas, man, that's just all AI now.
Yeah. You didn't have to be in the weeds, like analyzing, let AI analyze, and you could just make the decisions and act accordingly. Or even AI can help make the decisions too.
And challenge the analysis too. Like, how did you get this number? All that kind of stuff. Definitely went through that.
I don't know if I went back to back there, but I know the ball is definitely back in your court for a use case.
You did. You were hogging the ball, bro.
My bad. Passing it. Finish the game.
Oh, good. Yeah, I built a CFO Skill. You probably see a pattern here. I like to build skills for things that are normally executive level or for a very specific operation in the business. So I built out a CFO Skill. And for the company I was talking about where we're raising some money, I need to have financial forecasts and predictions. And, we need this much money so that we can do these things. And this is the type of runway we're looking at. And this is how many clients we need to onboard and how many we need to service in order to meet these requirements. And this is all very doable. It's all very easy. When you see the numbers, you go, oh, okay. Yeah, you only need to onboard, 2 to 4 clients a month on average. And within the year, we're profitable and the investors are getting their money back and so on and so forth. And I was able to build out a really solid financial forecast. And actually, when I was building out that financial forecast, one of the things I did was basically took all the market research that we had done, took the proposed business model, which went through a lot of changes. The model did go through a lot of changes because of a lot of conversations I was having with AI and with the CMO skill. But I put the CMO skill in the same room with the CFO and I let him duke it out. And so, I was able to create a financial forecast that, again, would have cost, man, I would have had to pull in a consultant and they would have charged me $50,000 just to put that together. And so, it was pretty straightforward. It was able to pump out all the numbers that I wanted to see. And then even pumped out some numbers and acronyms. I had to go ask it, what the hell do these things even mean?
Yeah.
And again, this is part, and I've been a CFO before, but I wouldn't call myself like a great one. But I was able to build out the CFO skill using a lot of books that CFOs read, and and are trained on. And there's blogs up by CFOs out there in the tech space. And I'm like, oh, let's take in all this information. Let's build out this skill. And building a skill in itself is a skill.
Yeah.
You can't just dump a bunch of information in and expect it to do it well. I find it takes me about 2 or 3 hours to create a skill effectively, one that actually does what I want it to do and performs. But yeah, some financial forecasting.
Yeah. Well, between the CFO skill and the CMO skill and what I'm picking up with when we talk about operations, another thing I've heard a lot of business owners that I've spoken to and have interviewed for an AI audit is they're like, I just need more people. I just need more people. But you're creating, quote unquote, the people. You're creating
Yeah.
the chief of staff, the chief financial officer, and the people who they say they need. But that's just a skill away.
Yeah. I was talking to a potential client last week, and he continually on the call was talking about building out his team in order to scale.
Mm-hmm.
And I could tell that he was in this whole, because that's the old way of thinking about business. I mean, up until a few years ago, it was, we want to scale, we're going to have to build a team to scale. And I go, do you need people or do you need leverage? And he goes, oh, well, what I'm really looking, because people create leverage, but we can create leverage with technology now. And he goes, oh, so do you want to build a team just because you want to be surrounded by people, or do you want to get the result?
Mm-hmm.
Because, well, I want the result in order to scale. I go, okay, great. Just making sure we're talking about the same thing here.
I'm typing the technology creates leverage now, because the old way of thinking about business is bodies, right? I need bodies.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we have the bodies in the form of a skill now. And it's just rethinking that, like, the fundamental approach has changed. We covered it on a previous episode with like the thought process of the dashboard, or the thought process of email, checking your emails or whatnot. We have to go back to first principles, thinking like, why do we do it this way in the first place? Are we still building rockets based on roads because of the Romans, or is there a new way to do it now?
I know a business owner. He's stuck at $3 million. He's been stuck at $3 million for 5 years.
Mm-hmm. It's frustrating.
Very frustrating. And the business was really heavy. I advised him. He was able to really cut it back. No AI at all. I was just advising strategically. And he was able to reduce his team and then double his profits, because basically what he had done is there were parts of the business he didn't enjoy. So he just hired a consultant or a firm or an advisor for that particular thing, and then just did whatever they said. And he was being a bit lazy about it, right? But and that's a really generalized way of stating where he was at, because there's so many things that are happening psycho-emotionally that cause us to avoid certain things. And he was working through some of that as well. But he one of the things, because we have AI, is like I'm now being educated by a CFO agent on CFO stuff. And it's because I'm not hiring a CFO, I'm actually forced to learn a little more about what a CFO does and have better interactions with it.
Yeah.
The other thing too is sometimes when we hire someone, so I've had a couple CFOs in my career that were on my team, and they would share things with me and I just go, yeah, whatever. And I didn't want to look dumb, or I would railroad them or bulldoze them, and they would end up trying to make the numbers work to make me happy. And there was all this interpersonal stuff that was coming up in those relationships, whether I was bulldozing them or whether I didn't want to ask questions because I didn't, my own ego was in the way. But with AI, I have a CFO skill. I'm just like, yeah, explain it to me like I'm in the 8th grade.
Yeah.
No big deal. And it can do it. And it shifts the level of At the end of the day, the business owner is 100% responsible for their business. But a lot of times we can use other humans to create an illusion that that's not quite true. And I think that by using AI and using skills and agents that are developed for these particular roles allows us to be in touch with the responsibility that's actually ours, while also having the benefit of all the knowledge and wisdom that someone of that position would have.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's the game changer, where we've said before in a previous episode, a lot of people are losing their jobs, right? Like the CFOs are like, okay, I'm losing my jobs. But, and there's also a lot of people who are now empowered to create and have their own staff. So who knows if it's going to be an equal trade-off, right? The people losing their jobs to the business owners. But now the ability to learn and engage with the staff, having more of that curious mind and taking away the interpersonal, relations there that could get in the way of what we ultimately want is financial growth, deliverables, and serving the people that we're trying to serve, solve the problem that we're trying to solve, right?
Yeah, it's results. We're just looking for results.
That's it. Speaking of results, let's get the last use case. Driving this bus home. I know I hogged the ball in the third quarter, but the fourth quarter and the buzzer shot is yours, Mike.
Yeah. Learning how to use GitHub. And so like a common thing that's coming up for me is teams. Yeah. Like a while back, someone said they're running a team and everyone's working on their own cowork or in their own Claude code, and everyone's still in isolation. And learning how to use GitHub in order to share information and share what you're building and work on projects together is something that a lot of non-technical teams, when I mean, like this particular team was, they do high-end web design. So they're working with technology. They're working, they're building websites. Most people would go, oh, that's pretty technical. But they weren't using GitHub. They didn't know how to share information, because GitHub has traditionally been for coders to share information. But now a lot of people who are non-technical that are starting to get into Claude code are now getting GitHub accounts and learning how to use that in order to share information. So I make it really easy inside of our school to share skills where they can just download and upload it. But what I could also be doing is just sharing a link to my GitHub repo, my repository, and then they can just take that link and then pull that into their Claude code, and then it would assimilate it for them there too. So one reason I don't do too much GitHub stuff right now is because it's a lot easier for me to educate people on download, upload, because they understand that. But really, the better move is to use GitHub. And if you're operating with a team and you want them sharing information, learn how to use GitHub. And everyone on your team learns how to use GitHub. It's a day of education, and now you can work together seamlessly as a team.
Yeah, I'm like in the middle of typing the note here. It's like uploading the skill is, for a lot of folks, it's a lower barrier of entry, because it's like if you know how to attach a link or a file to your email, you could upload the skill. But with GitHub, it's your email always having access to said skill.
Yeah. So for instance, a few weeks ago, I was able to download the G Stack, which is Gary, what's his name? Gary Tan, and he leads up Y Combinator, and he's also an engineer. And basically, I was able to pull in, I think it was 27 of his skills all at once. All at once. I took the link, I dropped it into the workspace that I use. I use something called Conductor, which has basically replaced my cowork. It's got all the power of, it has all the power of Claude Code and then some, because it allows me to really orchestrate with several different agents simultaneously, several different workspaces at the same time. I was able to pull in his repo, and now I have an entire repo stack from somebody who builds tech companies. And so it wasn't just one skill. I got 27 skills and a bunch of other stuff on top of that all at once. And so learning how to use GitHub, like I can basically, instead of downloading each one of my skills individually, I've got like 20 skills that I could share. I could put them in one repo and someone could just get Bledsoe's stack and then download all of them. I wouldn't just download entire stacks at once. I would say what I would do is I'd pull in the link and I would talk to Claude Code and say, hey, look at everything in here, see if it's going to conflict with anything I have in here.
Yeah.
Okay, is there any conflicts or things that are similar? Okay, which one is better? Oh, and in some cases with the G stack, I had created some things that were similar. And there were parts of my skill that were better than Gary's, and there were parts of his that were for the same skill that were better than mine. Yeah. It's like, let's update this skill. Let's combine these. Let's have a conversation about how to upgrade this. So
nice.
Immediately I got Gary's stack. I was able to integrate it with my stack. I left some of his skills out. I got rid of some of my skills and I integrated some of our skills. And now I just got this full upgrade from somebody who I trust.
Yeah. And I'm glad you touched on that. That was going to be one of the questions I was going to ask is taking all those skills on, there could be overlap and you can end up confusing your LLM is like, wait, which skill do I pull from? Which one do I want to do? So making sure there's no contradictions or overlap.
And that's why I like being able to go to a public repository on GitHub, grab the link, drop it in Claude Code, and having it do a full analysis based on what I already have built.
Yeah. And that's the other half too. It's like, it might sound daunting. It's like, I have to go through these skills and then I know like Claude Code could do that for you. You just have to be aware of it so you don't, like, it's like you're not driving recklessly. You know exactly what you're working with.
Yeah. It was really cool to get his stuff because it comes from such a tech orientation, pure tech. And I have more of a content marketing background. And so now I get all the benefits of what he has and I have where my strengths are. Now I have this, the thing that people probably don't quite understand yet, I know they don't, is on my machine. Well, everything on my machine that I'm doing with AI is backed up to my GitHub, so I can access it from anywhere.
Nice.
So if something happens to my computer, it's not gone. A lot of people who are working in co-work, their laptop shits the bed. Everything they've been building shits the bed. So having all your skills there, having your memory files, your agents, all that stuff built up, I don't trust those things living on the cloud on someone else's platform. I know Claude has agents now that are in the cloud. They have cloud agents. So I like to have them in my own, not just in my own machine, but in the repo. But my own repo, my own machine, I basically built this thing. It can do all sorts of things that I can take with me anywhere. And it's different than anyone else's machine.
Yeah.
Because it's so specific to me. And so the more I use it, the better it gets and the faster I can move. And I can forget sometimes of how much I built it out until I start talking to somebody else or I start working with somebody else. And I put in a prompt and I tell it to do something and it goes off and does this amazing stuff. And then they put the same prompt in their machine and goes, I'm not getting anywhere close to the same quality. I go, oh, it's all about building it out.
Yeah.
So I think that you can either sit and build all this stuff out yourself, or you can hire someone else to help you build it. Either way, everyone's getting access.
Yeah. Everyone's getting access. And the key is the use cases that we shared are applicable to your business, and even learning more, surrounding yourself with the community, the school community, definitely a great resource for folks to share more. And I'd love to, I'm going to call out the audience right now of putting in the comments below, or joining school, sharing their use cases if we didn't cover one, and how it's been beneficial to them. Because whether it's GitHub, sharing the repos, this sharing of knowledge is the definition of a rising tide, lifting all the ships. But it's only to those ships who take on this information. And if you're a business owner who's capped at your revenue, or maybe you're stuck within the business and revenue dips the moment you take a vacation or take a couple of days off, these are the tools that can completely drastically change your life and change your bottom line. So, man, I think this is probably one of the most valuable episodes we've ever done, Mike.
I think that happens every time.
Just keep getting better and better.
Every time we do a show, it just gets better.
That's it. That's what I'll talk about. While you drink your water, I'm ready to wrap up unless you had one last thing you wanted to impart amongst the audience and our friends here at Full Stack.
I think we're good.
Let's do it. The daily brief. Focus your day. First use case. Single source of truth. I say in air quotes, but it's what's relevant to me right now. Do you have the single source of truth, or that single location in which all of your information is being amalgamated and given to you in a direct way? Brand Architect in the CMO skill, the look, the sound, the brand cohesion of your company, and the marketing strategy behind it. Are you finding the blue ocean, increasing your positioning and cleaning up the messaging so it sticks with your ideal customer profile? Reverse engineer the ideal outcome and work from there. Use case number 3 was AI vetting process. Whether it's for resumes coming into your business, or perhaps you're looking at a number of offers that come into your business. If you're a podcaster, or if you're a content creator and you're sifting through guest requests, a vetting process with the proper setup in mind could save you hours upon hours of time. And then tweaking it a lot at first gets better as you go. Number 4 for the use case was AI assessment and task selection. Where is time wasted? What can be automated and only needs human review? Easiest to build and then make the business an AI business eventually. Talking about the project manager, overseeing the project, and AI becomes the project manager itself. That little domino that eventually takes down the big door. Use case number 5 is speed to lead, increasing your conversions and being responsive. Again, without spending any extra marketing dollars, you hold on to, you get those customers even faster. And this is where I hog the ball with use case number 6, back to back, your customer health profile and churn prevention. Hold on to the customers on the back end. Speed to lead and that customer health, those are 2 things that could increase your bottom line drastically without spending an extra dollar in marketing. And then bringing it home, the CFO skill built. Financial forecast and predictions. Let the CFO and the CMO get into a room, duke it out. I need more people. A lot of business owners say that. The old way of thinking about business, but people create leverage. But now technology can create the leverage as well. The business owner is responsible for the business. And then finally, number 8 use case is learning how to use GitHub. Now, your information is not just your own, but the information that's out there is free for the taking. Learning how to share information, uploading a file to an email, that's one way to get those skills. But another one is actually creating the fact that your email has access to the skills automatically. And maybe you're running a company and a tech company where your employees, the operators within your business, are all using technology, but are they using their own approach? Is it siloed in the technologies that they're using, or do you have coherence amongst everything? So learning how to share that. And of course, back up your work on GitHub, skills, memory files, etc. And it's all about building it out on the back end, because the prompt that you put into your LLM does not yield the same response that I put into mine or that Mike puts into his. So that's why it's all about building out the back end for that consistent growth. And if you want help building it, if you want to talk more about building it, check us out with the Full Stack community. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, leave us a rating to let us know how we're doing. And of course, we'll catch you guys next time on Full Stack.